Welcome to another episode of Fourth and Frames, the fantasy football podcast for fantasyandframes.com. Yes, Jorge Edwards is not here. I'm Nate Markham. I'm filling in for him. Hopefully I can guide this ship of chaos through these, actually seemingly easy waters with the guest that I have with me today. Let's start off, Teddy Richardson. Teddy, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing pretty well as well as we can now that football's over.
No, it didn't end so well for me, as you guys all know. So, come in and not talk football
for me.
Something else. What do you guys want to talk about? Of course, Dave Abraham. Dave, good to talk to you again, man.
What's good, dude? Just excited to be doing something football related. I was sad when that final whistle went. No more football for 6-7 months.
No, there's still football every day because, as you know, Fantasy and Frames has taken on a new wrinkle. Besides just being the redraft and IDP league, they have now ventured into dynasty waters. It brings me to the next guest we have, Michael Bauer, our dynasty guru at Fantasy and Frames. Take it. How you doing?
I'm not the guru tonight because of your other guests, so I'm taking a back seat tonight. Just to have a good time.
Funny you say that, because the other guest we have is the content creation assistant at Ultimate Graphs. You can also find him at Twitch and YouTube, making fantasy football videos with his two beautiful daughters. Let's not forget the amazing work at Dynasty Nerds that he does. The one, the only, Garrett Price. Garrett, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't know that I deserved quite that introduction, but I'm excited to be here. Any opportunity to get together with fellow fantasy football degenerates like you all. At least if I read the thread right. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, I do believe degenerate is probably the PG way of explaining how these guys and myself are. But let's just jump right into it, guys. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. You know, there's no better gift to give than possibly Fantasy and Frames gear. You can also get Ultimate Graphs gear, or go at least ultimategraphs.com, I believe, Garrett. Is that where you can find it?
Ultimate Autographs is the website, and then Ultimate Graphs is just the shortened, because I don't think they could get that on Twitter for some reason. I think somebody stole it first.
We'll find them and we'll hunt them down, and we'll change that over so it can be Ultimate Autographs. Though obviously you can get Dynasty Rewind gear, I believe, at Viridian Global. Is that still the case, Mike?
Oh yeah. Go to Viridian Global. You can get a cool hat like this.
Can. It's very nice, very sharp. I'm not wearing mine and hoodie, unfortunately, right now, but I do have one. My wife has a shirt. Teddy, you selling anything?
Yeah, if you want to head over to NHL.com, you can pick up a nice Carolina Hurricanes hat. That is definitely was prepared for hat wear in this episode.
You can also go to Goodwill and find the same hat for a cheaper price, I believe. No offense. That is not the direction I was intending, but, So, unfortunately or fortunately, materialistic gifts can be the best, but I believe the gift of knowledge is what everybody's here to get today from us for Valentine's Day. Garrett, I want to start with you. Beautiful. From a dynasty perspective, who earned that Valentine's Day card from you last year?
I think it's got to be Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Jonathan Taylor earned that card from me, and he made me sweat it out though. Like, he made me earn it, because it kind of came down to Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 101, or and most people were going that route. And then there were some Jonathan Taylor truthers, and I ended up being a part of that squad. And I even remember my home league. There were, I had traded a pick early in the year and ended up getting the 101, and I was like all stoked. I was like, I already got a playoff team, get to add the 101, and I take Jonathan Taylor first overall. My team's like, my league's like, aren't you the expert? Aren't you the one that gets like paid to do fantasy football stuff? Blah, blah, blah. Don't you know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be the 101? And they let me have it. And through about 10 weeks, they were looking pretty correct. But over the second half of the season there, Jonathan Taylor just played absolutely fantastic. Really looks like a true solidified top 5 back for dynasty purposes. You could even make a strong argument for top 3 back for dynasty purposes. So I think he earned that card, maybe some chocolates, some roses. Like, I think we need to treat him right, because he deserves it.
The I choose you card was always my favorite from The Simpsons. If you guys are familiar with that one, I believe that's Mike. Who are you giving that choose card to from last year?
I do want to just add to what Garrett said too. Jonathan Taylor at the running back one last year was not a far stretch at all. Everybody liked Clyde Edwards-Helaire and they liked his skill and talent. But, the Kansas City offense, Andy Reid always has a way of making other players just, valuable enough to devalue a certain running back. And I saw it in his tenure in Philadelphia. And we've seen that to an extent in Kansas City as well. One of my guys last year, and, I'm a big dynasty guy as we all are, so I'm just going to keep it pretty young with my guys, but I'm going with T. Higgins. He was the first overall pick in the second round, handpicked by Joe Burrow, if the rumors are true. Practically a first-round pick. I mean, the guy's fantastic. He also looks a little bit more physical now than when he played at Clemson, just a little bit bigger, a little bit. So he definitely hit the weight room a little bit. Another guy, I didn't think A.J. Green was going to be anything. I was right. Really didn't do much. Got a lot of targets, but didn't do a lot with it. So T. Higgins, I think the buy window on T is probably closed. Although if you want to try to get him, just say you don't know about Joe Burrow's health, blah, blah, blah. Go that route. But we saw him ball out there. So, and look, fantasy triage. That's Aaron, right? Yeah, see,
that is.
He knows what's up. So
he's very wise. He's very wise. Another person that's wise is Dave Ibrahim. Dave, who is I'm running out of all these adjectives, so I'm going to need some assist. What else do we give on Valentine's Day besides the card, the chocolates, the roses? Who are you giving smooches to, Dave?
Well, I don't do Valentine's Day. All right, I'm sticking it to the man. That's my thing. All right, that and I'm cheap, so but I'm going to stick with the sticking to the man.
The second.
Yeah, mostly the second. But yeah, don't tell my wife that. But look, the guy that was that I think did great in redraft was James Robinson, the guy that I did not think was going to be anything. In fact, I left him on waivers in a bunch of places. So he was the star. I mean, I don't know how he's going to do next season, but definitely a solid RB1 week in, week out. Getting the rock 25, 30 times a game. If you had him, you picked him up for free, you were very, very happy.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, and obviously as the later the drafts went with the news with everybody else between Armstead and everybody else starting to drop around him, then he started to bubble to the surface. Pretty much the only way you really outside of waiver wire that I saw him actually getting picked, maybe in the deepest of deep dynasty leagues, which, Garrett, you and Mike probably do a lot more than some of us in terms of that. But then again, Mike also goes into dynasty leagues, Superflex, and doesn't have quarterbacks. So maybe I should lean his direction with some of this advice.
So actually, that was by mistake. And I'm
shocker that was my mistake. That
Yeah, at least it wasn't on purpose.
though, in most Superflex startups, I'm usually the last guy to take a starting quarterback. One of the things that I try to do in leagues is you got to try to zig when other teams zag. So, for example, there's a 16-team IDP league I'm in. It's single quarterback. Everybody is really, really loading up on their IDP players, which is great. And that's fine if that's how you want to play it. So, Nate, you'll probably like this approach. So what I'm doing is I'm shedding all my high-caliber IDP guys, and I'm just plugging in mid-level startable guys, and I'm just really bolstering my offense. So you have to try to find a way to be different because not all 16 teams can win the same way. It just doesn't work like that. So, again, that's my strategy. Try to do things a little bit differently because there's only one Alvin Kamara, there's only one Dalvin Cook, there's only one Devin White. You can't all have these guys too. So you have to find the value guys, and that's really
I thought you said Kevin White for a second, and I was like, Kevin White?
There is only one Kevin White.
There is only one.
Thank God.
Where is Kevin White nowadays?
Exactly.
Was Zona for a second, I think, wasn't he?
Oh,
Then he got cut.
Costco outside of Macungie in Pennsylvania that lives in Macungie. So some people that are that's local to me, they have actually seen him there, and they did crap talk him too. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this podcast. I'll just crap talk.
It's my show.
Well, what's
my show?
Yeah.
Come in and unplug me, and well, I say he unplugged me like he's living here or something. I'm outside the Costco right now with Kevin. He's my media director. Teddy, bouncing to you, my friend. I haven't had that had a chance to talk to you as far as that goes.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so I'm going to cut you off before you go into presents and make my wife need more things for Valentine's Day. But yeah, no, mine was, I think we all have kind of personal experiences with how our rookie drafts went this season. And coming in with the last pick of the first round, I was able to snag Justin Jefferson and rode him basically to a 16-0 perfect dynasty season. So he is definitely he's getting a limo to dinner. He is getting steak, lobster, whatever he wants. He earned that one.
Yes, I am not fast enough to do humble brag as a banner across the bottom. Unfortunately, that's where I need Kevin, get over here. He's tired. But oh well, Garrett, I'm gonna come back to you, man, because not everything can be all coming up roses, as they say. Somebody has to get the expired chocolates. I don't even know if they expire, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Who'd we miss on
this year or overall? Because I have a lot either way.
Are we still talking rookie or in general?
So I mean, really, honestly, I'm talking about misses from just the dynasty perspective. Granted, thing is it's just a single year sample, because obviously we can still be wrong and still be right in the future.
Sure.
But who did you kind of bank on a little bit that might have left a little short?
Well, we'll go to a guy that I pumped a lot 2 years ago, and I still held out hope this season. I said, you know what? I still think it could happen. It's not dead yet. The dream's not dead. And, JJ Arcega-Whiteside made me look pretty dumb. I loved his tape. I did. I really, really enjoyed his tape. I thought he was going to be a monster inside the red zone. I mean, part of it is anything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Eagles this year. Sorry, Mike. But I mean,
It's fine.
Yeah, it was a dumpster fire. But even within that, J-Jaw still never got targets. When he did, he dropped half of them. It was all bad. So yeah, he broke my heart. I'm listening to Taylor Swift songs now. So
Mike texted me before the game and said that it was when everybody else was down. It was at week 12 or 11, and you're like, oh, he's on the sideline catching passes, and then you're like, nope, he's back off the field. He's not playing. And I'm like, that's how close he got to actually making an impact. Is at least
missed it by that much.
Damn it, Mike. Who besides JJ Arcega-Whiteside? Maybe
you gotta find the JJ Arcega-Whiteside's Eagle highlight video. It's basically him just hyping his teammates up. By the way, Dorial Green-Beckham has more receptions and yards as an Eagle in 1 year than JJ Arcega-Whiteside has in 2 years. And Dorial Green-Beckham was awful. But I could talk about that ad nauseum, so I'm not going to. My letdown, and Garrett's going to like this one, is Drew Lock, because you know how high I was on Drew Lock. Redraft, Dynasty, I had him everywhere. And the places I didn't have Drew Lock, I did well. And the places I did have him, I did bad. I think he finished at quarterback 27 on the season. I was trying to find it. So in the standard 12-team league.
Top 27. It's not bad.
Not bad. I mean, he was 4-9 as a starter, which doesn't really translate to fantasy wins and losses for you, but less than 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. There's talks of him getting replaced. I think he gets one more year. So if he starts on a hot streak next year, maybe you want to move him for somebody else possibly. But he let me down everywhere. He broke my heart. Damn you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Frank, Jimmy G at the as a QB1. I'm assuming he means as a QB1, hopefully, versus the overall QB1. But then again, he's pretty good looking. So, anything's possible.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it, Frank. Good looking out.
Exactly. So, Dave, I want to switch over to from a redraft standpoint, mostly because I know a lot of your redraft targets, and this part of this show will make me really happy because I get to not see you squirm in despair. It's not my agenda, but I do know your draft. So, who you shot that arrow redraft a la Cupid, and you were hoping to stick it in the butt of one of the. Oh man, nope.
Let's rewind.
Nope.
Can we rewind this?
So, from a redraft perspective, who did you miss on, Dave? Wow.
A guy who
I think Jorge's feeling a lot better all the time.
No.
A guy who I was absolutely advocating for him, and all year I said he's big, he's burly, his name's Todd Gurley. No, he disappointed. He started off strong as a red zone threat. What he didn't get in yardage, he absolutely crushed it in the touchdowns, but then just disappeared into thin air to the point that, probably from week 11 on, you could not start him. So that's a guy that you paid a heavy price for that did not work out well.
Teddy, what about yourself?
So for me, my fantasy letdown is going to be Darius Slayton of the New York Giants, mainly because I think I was very hopeful for his opportunity, especially when he came out of the gates, even first game of the season with Saquon even there, put up 25.2 fantasy points in PPR scoring. And I said, oh, he's going off. Saquon goes down week 2. I'm like, I've got a wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season. And then he finishes as checks notes, wide receiver 55. So that did not happen. It hurt. I also was very excited for T.Y. Hilton off the waiver wire because someone dropped him in Dynasty, and it didn't work out very well because I didn't play him at the right time. So there's my 2.
That's I think there's a theme with a lot of those type of players going along. Garrett, can you differentiate when you think of your drafts between Dynasty and straight redraft? Is there huge like I would say draft capital variance in some of the people that you might have quote unquote missed on?
As far as between redraft and Dynasty, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I think so. I think a little bit. Part of it is obviously like age is going to become a much bigger factor in redraft versus Dynasty. Redraft, I don't care if a guy's 33, 34, 35. Like if I think he's going to have a good season, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Dynasty, you have to always be thinking 2 and 3 years in advance at least. And so I think that does play a role, but there's a lot of these guys too. Even, most of the guys that we named here, even going into the season, I don't think any of those guys were top 4 or 5 round startup picks in Dynasty. There were more of the flyer types that were, we're thinking we might be catching lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And, we didn't. And so I think most of the guys that we named were lower round. I will say though, Teddy, I'm still holding out hope for my guy Slayton. So I still that offensive line was very young this year. And I just don't think Daniel Jones had the time to get it downfield to where Darius Slayton would be. And so, he's a guy that needs time to get down the field and make those big plays. So, and with Saquon gone as well, the safeties all of a sudden are playing a little bit deeper. So yeah, I'm still holding out hope, but I was with you. That hurt a couple of my teams too, where I had him as my, hopeful wide receiver 3 type of guy. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
One guy I thought who really cost a lot of teams championships and then some was Lamar Jackson, because people were taking him so early. I saw him sometimes going in the end of the first round. And I mean, let alone, in a single regular 1 QB league, usually you're waiting till round 10, round 11. You're paying first, second round price for Lamar Jackson. He hurt your team.
Yep.
Yeah, I missed a lot of Josh Allen. Pretty much every time I had the opportunity to strike, I just thought better options later. And I mean, I think I probably share the sentiments with a lot of people. Garrett, who'd you hit on though? Who was a redraft that you're happy, humble brag for us?
There were a couple guys that I was pretty excited about that I felt good that I hit on. One of the guys was already named. I actually had James Robinson all over the place. And he was just one of those ones where I can't even say that it was like amazing analysis on my part. Like I loved him as a prospect. I had watched him at Illinois State. I had broken down 2 or 3 games, but even then I think he was like my running back, like 12 or 13 in the rookie class. So I can't even say that I had him like crazy high or I knew it from the start, cause I didn't, but I at least had enough cognitive development there to snatch him a lot of places. So that's one guy that I definitely would say that I had everywhere that I was pretty happy. But probably the biggest one out of all of them was Stephon Diggs. There were a lot of people that were, nervous after him coming from Minnesota. We saw kind of up and down career, up and down games, was nicked up here and there quite a bit. And so I think a lot of people weren't buying him, and specifically also not buying Josh Allen. I was a believer in Josh Allen. And on top of that, I thought that we had a really good situation where there was really no other true targets that I needed to worry about. I knew John Brown was there. I knew Dawson Knox was like developing a little bit, but overall I knew that was going to be his team. And so in startups, I was getting him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And now we're talking about he's, a second round value at this point. So that was one that pushed me to the championship in quite a few leagues.
Yeah. That's probably he was probably your 2 or 3 in about every league.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Mike, I know you're extremely smart. You had to have hit on a number of things, except for I think we missed out on probably 70% of the playoffs that we were in together.
Yeah. I was in 19 leagues last year. I only made the playoffs in 3. That was my fault. I didn't diversify my teams enough. So I tell people, diversify your fantasy portfolio. You like a player, and that's great. You don't have to have him on every single roster.
Unless it's DJ Dallas, then you do.
Well, I see the jersey back there. And you know what, Garrett? I have DJ Dallas.
There you go.
That's thanks to you. You were the guy who told me about DJ Dallas first. So thank you.
I'm not sure you helped your team much outside of those 2 weeks, but you're welcome.
I hope he gets more. I really hope he gets more of an opportunity to play next year because I think he deserves it. The guy's a good back. He can do everything really well. But as far as I'm sorry, I spaced out for a little bit. We're still talking.
Guy you did well on.
Yeah. From a redraft, I guess. I had a hard time with this question because if I had a guy that I did well on, it's the consensus guys. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The guys that got you there, Devontae Adams, guys like Alvin Kamara, obviously. I think my strength was playing the waiver wire when I needed to. But the biggest mistake that I made, and I've said it on my show before, don't say I don't need that guy because I missed out on a lot of James Robinson. I missed out on a lot of Robert Tonyan. James Robinson was a top 10 running back, and Robert Tonyan was the tight end 3 over the course of the season. So a lot of spots that could have put me in playoff contention. I'll tell you that, and it didn't. And anything could happen when you get into the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. So you do need that guy. Get rid of that wide receiver 5 on your roster. You don't need that guy. You could probably drop Stanley Morgan Jr. as much as it pains you to do so, right, Garrett?
Still holding that hope.
He's still the guy that I hope gets a shot too, though. He deserves it. So I can't take credit for any hits here, to be honest with you, because I played the waiver wire and it was just generally consensus. So.
Well, the easiest way to bounce back from I'd say a down season is to hit on a couple of the players that, entering their second year, usually the third year breakout is what a lot of people want to talk about. But I want to talk about the second year. I don't want to call it a breakout. What I'm going to call it is really that who's going from the puppy love of the first year rookie and entering that full on Facebook official mode that you're taking with the second year guys. Who's going to be drafted amongst the I don't want to say Devontae Adams, but who's moving up some significant draft capital? Teddy, you look eager to make it official with someone.
I'm wondering if you practice these segues or if you're pulling these off the top of your head. And either way, I'm impressed.
Thank you so much.
And I love that you went to me first because I'm going to take the easy ones, and that's going to be Cam Akers and it's going to be T. Higgins. I think that if you're looking at guys that are going to shoot up where you're going to have to take them and what you're going to have to give up to acquire them now, I think it's going to be those two because Cam Akers showed that he can be the 3-down back. He looked phenomenal in the Rams last game. And he now has Matthew Stafford, who's going to hopefully help him, spread out the offense. And so I think it's only going to get better for him. We already talked about T. Higgins, but I think if you're looking at wide receivers, it's got to be him.
David, let me go with you next.
A guy that I think you're going to have to pay the price for, Justin Jefferson, is someone who I think is probably going to go maybe as early as the late second round. I'm just a little bit concerned the price is a bit too high. I'm still holding hope for Henry Ruggs. I do like his potential, big, deep threat. I think he might be someone you can get probably for virtually free that might break out next year. Not so much Jalen Reagor, depending on who the Eagles have at quarterback. But yeah, Justin Jefferson's definitely a guy that you'll have to pay the price.
That's who the Eagles quarterback's going to be. I have a theory on that if anyone wants to hear that at some point. But
wait, did you just say T-Law?
Yeah, I did. I have a theory.
I want to hear this theory.
Yeah, go ahead. We got time.
All right. So my theory is this.
Or he's not here.
they trade Wentz, obviously somewhere they get first round draft capital. They
Mhm.
trade Jalen Hurts and get whatever draft capital they can. So they're currently at the pick 6. They take the 6th pick. I'm sorry, in this scenario, they keep Jalen Hurts for a minute. They take the 6th pick and whatever first round pick that they acquired from the Wentz trade and Jalen Hurts and trade it to Jacksonville for the 1-1 and draft Trevor Lawrence. And if it
Interesting.
happens, you officially heard it here first. Stranger things have happened in the NFL. So that's what I'm
keep an
holding
eye
up for right now.
Garrett, I want to ask you one thing too.
Yeah.
What was all this cryptic David Montgomery news, do you think? You think that was just one of those, another posturing or maybe just a little clickbait type scenario?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think NFL players are smarter than we give them credit for at times. And I think they know exactly what they're doing often. And they know if I put out this cryptic tweet and then run it back real quick, that was about something completely different. That at least the seed's out there that, hey, look, I know how to get my way if I want it. I think that's a lot of players are really good at doing that. We're hearing a lot of the same stuff with Russell Wilson right now. Just in case I need an exit strategy, I'm just gonna let my agent leak some things, and I'm gonna let these guys know what they're doing. They've been trained on all of this kind of stuff over the years by their agents, and if I had to guess, there might not be a full blown inferno, but there's at least a little bit of a fire going on there.
Yeah.
David Montgomery's one guy I think is going to go way too high next year. He had a great end of season run, but who really thinks he's going to continue that?
Does anyone know in FanDuel scoring where David Montgomery finished this season? I do. It's not a trick question. And I'm going to tell you, it blew my mind that he finished where he did.
Was it 4?
4. He finished as RB4.
Mm-hmm.
That I did an article about. I had no clue. I would not have put him in my top 10.
Wow, it's crazy.
No, I took a lot of heat when the schedule lined up the way it did, and I was happy to say that I would go out and trade for him or at least start him with confidence. But I mean, again, it wouldn't have shocked me if he would have fallen on his face those weeks, showing just how lackluster that offense was. And I don't want to use the word incompetent, but I think that's rolls off the tongue pretty easy to explain them. Mike, who rolls off the tongue in terms of the early, moving up? I didn't get a chance. With Jalen Reagor now with T-Law there, you happy to do that?
It's my crazy theory. I'm sure I'll catch some flack for it. But like I said, stranger things have happened. But my guy's DeAndre Swift. He actually finished as the running back. I pulled it up here. Finished as running back 18 last year. But I'm just going through the game logs here. And I mean, it's super inconsistent through week 8. And then through week 9, 10, double digits, carries, 14. He missed some time, 7 carries, then 15, 10, 12 season out. I think with Dan Campbell there, Jared Goff in town, I really think there's going to be no committee like Goff had last year in LA. And I don't know why people are so down on Goff too. He could have a really good season. If they re-sign Kenny Galladay, he's got TJ Hawkinson there. DeAndre Swift can do it all. So you're going to pay a premium for him. There's no more acquiring DeAndre Swift cheap. I was a little too down on him last year, me and Porkman. We said he didn't have that dog in him, that nose for the end zone, but he looks a lot different than he did at Georgia, man. I'll say that.
Having Deuce Staley come out and say he's a 25 touch a week guy probably isn't going to help keep the draft stock. But he said that last year about Miles Sanders too, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. But, that's one of those things. And one thing that you do have to consider, I don't know how it's going to be in Detroit, but Deuce Staley was in charge of the running back rotation in Philadelphia. So whenever anyone would say, well, Doug Peterson likes a running back by committee, Doug Peterson called the plays. It was Deuce Staley that put the running back on the field to run the plays. So just something to keep into consideration.
Yeah. And the new offensive coordinator situation is one that does lean towards running backs a little bit if history serves us correctly.
Can I just say as well, everyone was talking about how Deuce Staley should have gotten a head coaching job and, this and that, blah, 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 but he was never a coordinator. He was offered the offensive coordinator position in Philadelphia 2 years ago, and he did turn it down. So I think part of that, he wanted to call plays, but Doug still wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha. And Garrett, I'm sorry to save you for last on this, and I know everybody would cherry pick all the easy ones. And since you're the guest, I fortunately usually I try to leave the easy questions. But who of the remaining that's left, who you gonna move up?
Yeah, there's a couple guys. I think consensus wise, I think J.K. Dobbins is one that's going to be moving up a lot. You're gonna have to pay a lot more to get him next year. We know that Mark Ingram is gone, and we don't know what's going to happen with Gus Edwards. But either way, we just saw what he did when it was just the two of them. Heaven forbid it's just him. It's going to be wild. So he's one. Another one that I do like quite a bit. I don't know that consensus has caught up as much, but I'm still interested in him, assuming they don't nab a free agent like Chris Godwin or somebody like that. But Michael Pittman Jr. is another one that I like quite a bit.
I love that.
Nice. I mean, on the opposite, I hate to do the the negatives, but who might fall down or fall on their face after last year? Be real far down.
Yeah, and I'm still willing to try. They might have a little dirt on them, but I'll pick them up. I'll dust them off. Brian Edwards. Brian Edwards would be a guy that I think's fallen quite a bit. Right before the season, people were going crazy. We saw the pictures of him in practice going up one-handed, and Derek Carr calling him Devontae Adams, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, he's like wide receiver one, and everybody's gaga over the guy. And I was a fan as well. And then we had the slow start to the season, the injury, all of that kind of stuff. But let's not forget the very last game of the season. We had a couple nice catches, over 50 yards, a touchdown. So he was looking good there at the end. And just like the guy that he was comped to in Devontae Adams, took Adams a little while to get things going. I think the same thing could be true about Brian Edwards. We know Gruden's offense is notoriously difficult to figure out. So I'm still willing to buy low, but definitely the price is drastically cheaper now than it was last year.
Absolutely.
Depending on what happens with Aaron Jones, I really like A.J. Dillon next year. This year, I should say. I think I'm going to try to get as much stock of him as possible. I don't think Jamal Williams is that much of a threat to him. If this guy can get 10-plus touches, I think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah. Teddy, you got anybody else that you like pushing up, or anybody that you want to just step on? It's Valentine's Day is heartbreak and love. I mean, this is multifaceted.
So I guess if we're gonna go stepping on, I'm all off the Tua hype train. I don't see it. I know there's gonna be a lot done in Miami in the offseason. They have a lot to build on, but I didn't see from Tua what I wanted to, and I feel a lot better about like Justin Herbert and some other rookie quarterbacks in their situations, but I think that Tua is going to get overdrafted and overhyped still, and I think that he should not be. Mm-hmm. And then otherwise, I don't really know that I think Chase Claypool is another one, not to spurn any hate of the team that my wife covers, but I think Chase Claypool is also going to be overdrafted. That I would try to sell just because he was very touchdown dependent. Obviously, it depends on what happens with Juju and where he goes in free agency, if he goes anywhere. But I don't think that he's going to be as huge as people want him to be from his rookie year.
Gotcha. And not just who's moving down, who's moving up. The last question I have for you guys is who's getting the full-on Valentine's Day text message, it's over. Not the in person, but it's the coldest of cold. You're fading them completely. You wouldn't draft them even with the right draft capital. And that's cold-blooded. I know.
It's cold-blooded.
I'm going to start with you, Garrett, because I want to hear what you have to say.
Oof.
I love the facial expression.
I mean, that's just I felt that. The guy that I'm just saying like completely it's over, we're done. I'm going to go with man, because in my mind there's always a price. So I'm like, there's
that's what I'm struggling with. There's always a price. Are we talking like round 15?
I've got you one if y'all want to think about it.
Go ahead, you go first. I'll hop in.
I'm doubling that up from last week. I said if you offered to pay my league fees, I'm not taking Todd Gurley. You cannot give me money to roster Todd Gurley next year. You cannot offer me anything to take him. I do not want it. I'm done. He hurt me. I will not forget. He's outside with the boombox. I'm throwing rocks at him. No Todd Gurley.
while you guys think of somebody, and you can incorporate the draft capital caveat out, because that is a little unfair, because at some point, the last round, even if Todd Gurley was there, I think I would still be like, I'll take him, because if he happens to have week 1 on a team and puts up he has 15 carries for 80 yards, somebody's a buyer. If I'm in a league with Dave Abraham, of course someone's a buyer. But
no, I got burnt way too hard.
I know that same situation where someone said if they would buy a league, this goes back, I'm going to say 15 years. Randy McMichael was offered, if a person in one of my leagues would have taken Randy McMichael with the first overall pick, another friend of ours would have paid the league for him. And he's like, nah. And it was just the backstory of Randy McMichael's the whole reason this was brought up back when he was with, I think it was with the Dolphins at the time. And he's like, nope, not even if you pay the league. He's like, all right. So his first pick, Tom Brady, the year that he tears his ACL and he's out for the entire season. So hindsight is maybe you should do that bet, and it might pay to your advantage, because who you might take in with your first pick could burn you. Have I given enough time to anybody else to think of their total fades?
I got one.
I saw the hand.
David, you go first.
I was just going to say Odell Beckham Jr. I'm done with continuously giving him chance after chance. It's been 7 years since he really was a breakout monster. You know, I don't know where he's going to be next year. If he's going to be in Cleveland, in the toilet, who knows? But yeah, I'm just sick of paying a high price for him as well. Similar thing though, like for some reason, if he fell to me in the 10th round, am I going to take OBJ? Yeah, of course I am. But you know, his days of being a top 3 round pick is definitely gone.
Mike?
So just a couple things real quick to touch on what Garrett said earlier. The Raiders do plan on cutting Tyrell Williams. That's going to open the door for Brian Edwards right there. So good call, Garrett. Also, Garrett, before we leave then, I want your thoughts on 2 prospects.
Okay.
If good, I'm sure you looked at them already. The guy I'm out on, he's not even in the NFL yet, but the way that he's being ranked and just where I think his draft capital is going to be is Elijah Moore. Garrett, I don't know how you feel about Elijah Moore. I don't think he's that good. You know, I don't really care for his route running. I see guys
taking notes.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
I see
idiot.
that there's guys putting him over
That's awesome.
Tylen Wallace and stuff like that they're having him in the top 5 wide receivers. So that tells me that his ADP is going to be way too high, way too rich for me. So I'm out on Elijah Moore before he even gets it. So, okay, so Garrett's in. Garrett, just 2 quick questions, and then we get to your guy. I'm sorry, taking over here for a minute. I just want to know what you think about Kadarius Toney and Tylen Wallace, because Kadarius Toney has kind of been going all over the place. Like, there's people mocking him in the first round of the NFL draft to Washington. And Tylen Wallace, people on Twitter are just all over about, I feel like he could just do everything so well. He could be a complete wide receiver. But I wanted to know what you thought about these guys.
So I actually got to see both at the Senior Bowl. So I got to get a good look at them. Kadarius Toney, as far as being a route runner, as far as his explosiveness, as far as like all of those traits, like he looks great. Like he looks really good. However, he is not a natural catcher of the football. Like there are times he's like fighting. It's almost like he's like fighting himself to like catch the football. We saw drop after drop. They even like lined him up in the backfield at one point and like pitched him the ball and he dropped it. It was now the crazy part is he didn't have that as many drops at Florida. So it wasn't something that we saw like over and over. So I don't know if it was a bad week or what, if he had some bad, gas station sushi or I don't know, but like it was off. But from watching the tape, he looked a little bit better, but it still doesn't look overly natural to me. So I think it's going to be one of those things where if you can get him the ball in space, he'll be fine. But I don't think he's going to like win contested catch situations, stuff like that. So I'm not going to say I'm as high as other people are, but I'm not like completely out on him either. He's more of this wild card upside gamble, knowing that the floor could absolutely fall out. As far as Tylen Wallace goes, he gives me some Keenan Allen vibes. He's not very fast, but he's pretty lanky. He's got long arms. Great catcher of the football. Always catching it away from his body. High points really well. Really smooth in and out of like those junction points in the break. Really, really smooth there. So he's never going to win on like speed and athleticism, but a true like technician of the game.
Okay.
Nice. That is
Wanna get-
Kansas City Chiefs, if you're listening, these are two receivers that we could probably one, we don't need any more people that can't catch the ball off their helmet or face mask or anything. Yeah. Well, guys, I think that wraps up. Unless you had somebody that you really want to hate.
I forgot.
I mean, all right. Hate.
I would say David Johnson. I would say David Johnson's the guy that I'm just out on. I was kind of out of on him last year anyway, even though I knew he was going to be the starter. And overall, for most of the season, that proved to be true. He had a couple decent games there at the end. But, man, he just does not look like old David Johnson anymore. Or maybe he does look like old David Johnson. You know what I mean. He doesn't have it anymore. Like it's glue factory time for that horse. So yeah, I'm out.
Nice. Well, before we leave, what we like to do here at Fantasy and Frames is highlight our guests, let people listening that might not know who you are learn a little bit about you. Tell us, how long you've been playing, what got you into fantasy football, got you into Dynasty, going to Senior Bowl, etc.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've been playing fantasy football for probably a good 15 years or so. My oldest Dynasty league, this will be our 9th season this year. So been around a while. A lot of my buddies from college, we started the year right after we graduated. So, it's been a fun league so far. And so I started doing that, got into fantasy got into I should say more of like the industry of fantasy because in my home league, my one buddy, I used to always do these like write-ups of like predictions and stuff each week and like who was facing who and breakdowns and stuff like that. And he was like, hey man, like those things you write every week, like they don't actually suck. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. He's like, yeah, maybe you should, write them for people that care. Oh, thanks. It was like the nicest, like awkward insult compliment combination of things ever. But and because of that, I started writing at Dynasty Nerds. Then I got an invitation to a guest spot on the pod. They were like, you also don't suck at this either. So maybe we'll bring you on as like a regular guest or a regular host. Started doing that. And now I own part of the company. So it's just kind of been a weird, transition over the years. But that's kind of how all that happened.
Nice. And where can people find your work at? I know at Dynasty Nerds, Twitter.
Yeah,
Facebook.
on Twitter you can find me at Dynasty Price. On there all the time. Specifically, I love prospects. That's kind of my bread and butter is the rookies and breaking down tape and watching these guys and stuff like that. So chances are if I'm posting, it's probably about that.
Wow. Well, guys, I can tell you, Garrett, having you on did not suck. It wasn't the worst thing that's happened to me today. So, you got that go. Actually, an absolute pleasure. As with all of you guys, it was really good to get back on Talk Some Football. So for Teddy, for Dave, for Mike, for Garrett, I'm Nate Markham. Have a great night.